Our Gospel reading for this morning is from Matthew chapter 15, beginning at verse 10 through to 28. Then he, Jesus, called the crowd to him and said to them, "Listen and understand. It is not what goes into the mouth that defiles a person, but it is what comes out of the mouth that defiles." Then the disciples approached him and said to him, "Do you know that the Pharisees took offense when they heard what you said?" He answered, "Every plant that my heavenly Father has not planted will be uprooted. Let them alone. They are blind guides of the blind. And if one blind person guides another, both will fall into a pit." But Peter said to him, "Explain this parable to us." Then he said, "Are you also still without understanding? Do you not see that whatever goes into the mouth enters the stomach and goes out into the sewer? But what comes out of the mouth proceeds from the heart, and this is what defiles. For out of the heart come evil intentions, murder, adultery, fornication, theft, false witness, slander. These are what defile a person. But to eat with unwashed hands does not defile." Jesus left that place and went away to the district of Tyre and Sidon. Just then a Canaanite woman from that region came out and started shouting, "Have mercy on me, Lord, Son of David. My daughter is tormented by a demon." But he did not answer her at all. And his disciples came and urged him, saying, "Send her away, for she keeps shouting after us." He answered, "I was sent only to the lost sheep of the house of Israel." But she came and knelt before him, saying, "Lord, help me." He answered, "It is not fair to take the children's food and throw it to the dogs." She said, "Yes, Lord, yet even the dogs eat the crumbs that fall from their master's table." Then Jesus answered her, "Woman, great is your faith. Let it be done for you as you wish." And her daughter was healed instantly. This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. And so as we read through this passage, we continue the journey of Jesus with the crowds. At the same time, Jesus continues teaching his disciples. The beginning of our reading today sees Jesus stating what seems pretty obvious, at least to us, with the much greater understanding of how the human body functions than did the people of Jesus' day. It seems pretty obvious that what goes into the mouth is much less significant than what comes out. What we eat versus what we say. And today, we're even more conscious of the importance of what comes out of our mouths, as we're required to wear face coverings in so many indoor settings. And be cautious about what goes in. But remember, for Jesus' day, many who were listening to him sought to live under very strict guidelines as to what they could eat and how it should be prepared for religious reasons. They lived under a multitude of laws that were designed to help them live faithfully to the Creator God who had shaped their journey as a nation. Jesus says those things are no longer the most significant things that matter. But what you say, how you live, how you relate to one another, what people experience of you are the things that matter. Actually, this is not a new message. There are plenty of examples scattered through the Old Testament which challenge the people to remember that all the laws were a guide to preparing hearts, relationships, commitment to God. One of my favourites comes from Micah chapter 6 verse 8. "He has told you, O mortal, what is good, and what does the Lord require of you? But to do justice, to love kindness, and to walk humbly with your God." It's not a new message. But the disciples, Peter again in particular, don't get it. Which truly shouldn't surprise us. We still frequently act as if we don't get it, even now, 2,000 years later. We say we believe in the redemptive work of Jesus, believe and confess, and we are saved, made right with God. and yet we live as if it's the things we do that define our standing with God. Traditionally, in our heritage, it was things like drinking, swearing, smoking, dancing, wearing hats, at least for women, and of course only men in leadership. These were judged to be the things that proved we were in right relationship with God. And today many still believe variations on these rules or practices. For others of us, we've come a long way. Dancing is not such a problem. We wouldn't want to suggest that you can't be a Christian and drink or smoke, though we might still prefer that these things were not done. Instead, we're more subtle. We decide whether people act nicely, however that's defined. We suggest that certain lifestyles must be more sinful than ours, like homosexuality or some of the practices of other ethnic groups, and therefore they couldn't possibly be Christians. Despite the fact we still question our own worthiness. We set up our own rules, subtle though they may be, and we judge others. Jesus in this discourse didn't simply reflect on what comes out of the mouth, but identifies the things that come out of the mouth as coming from the heart. So I guess the logical question is, what's in our hearts? What do we believe? How are we engaged with God in our hearts? Following on from this lies the challenge to resist judging our modern equivalent of the issues of what goes into the mouth, or what behaviours we use to judge, or what activities we judge as acceptable or not. So much of our faith is grounded in relationship with God and with others, relationship that built on the fruits of the Spirit: love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, mercy, generosity, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. What comes out of our hearts? What are the ways in which we see the inner person? How do we relate to people not by their actions, but by their relationship with God and our relationship with God? What comes out of our hearts and our mouths? And as we reflect on that, may the beauty of God be reflected in your eyes, the love of God reflected in your hands, the wisdom of God be reflected in your words, and the knowledge of God flow from your heart, that all might see, and seeing believe.